My name is Lori Butler, and this is my hometown story. I grew up in Greenville, Texas, and went to school here. I mean, there's a lot of stories I could tell you, but one that really sticks out in my mind is when I was a junior in high school, and we were 10-0 and couldn't go. And what I mean by 10-0 is we won all 10 football games, and we didn't get to go to the playoffs because we had a young man, and I'm not going to say his name, but he was such a nice young man. He was older than I am, but back then, it just, I mean, you didn't think to ask kids these things. And I'm not even sure if he ever even played one down, if he was just suited up on the sidelines. But there's a deadline, and I should know that because I'm a I'm a teacher, and I'm also a sponsor of an organization of the Flaming Flashes. But there's a certain date that if you hit 19, you're ineligible. And our coaches didn't think to check on that. And I remember it was not, I'll never forget it, it was football season of 1980 because those students graduated in 1981. And he had turned 19 like maybe a week or 2 weeks before the cutoff. And we beat everyone, and it was Highland Park who went in and protested, and they went back and they basically went through all of our kids and found that this young man had turned 19 a little early, and so he shouldn't have even been on the football team or anything. And like I said, he was such a nice young man, but if that was bittersweet, I really think that group of young men would have won the state championship. They were that good, but we were 10-0 and couldn't go. And I can remember going to school and all the different things, but I can remember I could not wait to get my driver's license. And most kids couldn't wait to get their driver's license, but today kids don't have no idea about this, but we used to drag Wesley. And what I mean by drag Wesley is if once it got dark outside, you hit Wesley Street in your car. And you would go from one end to the other. You go all the way to Rolling Hills, which is now where the post office is, and on one side is the Dairy Queen. You would go there, and that would be called Rolling Hills. And you would roll through Rolling Hills, get back out on Wesley, go to the Sonic, and then go all the way down. And you'd had to pass by Taco Villa, and there was TG&Y, and where. Right now, where Planet Fitness is, you would turn around in there, or you'd go across, and then you'd cross Wesley, and you go all the way back down. And you would always sit at the Sonic. I mean, if you wanted to be seen in Greenville, you were at the Sonic. And anybody that's out there will know, Bodie Smith was the biggest cruiser there ever was. And and if he was still here, he'd be cruising Wesley now. Steve Pickens was another one of those that was right on up there, always was out and about. But I remember I could not wait to cruise Wesley with Harry Gibson in the car with me, and Christy Sherrill Hull. There were just so many. My sister Lachelle, there'd be several of us, but we would cruise Wesley, and we had this big car, and it was a 98 Oldsmobile, and it was huge. You could pack people in it. You didn't have to have seatbelts back then. And Harry named it the Bomb because it was a bomb. But it was a great car, and I remember we could have had it or the LTD. My dad said, "Okay, I'm going to sell one of them. One of these cars will be yours." And I thought we should pick the LTD, but no, Harry said, "Get the big one because we can get everybody in it." And so we could get everybody in it. And we could even put a few in the trunk if we needed to. But we would cruise Wesley, and then we would end up at the Sonic. And I mean, there would be cars packed just to go up and down Wesley Street. I mean, people from Wolf City would come, from Lone Up, from Quinlan. Everybody would come just to cruise up and down Wesley. And talking about Wolf City, I remember Joel Richardson, who is now my sister's brother-in-law, but he was the big deal in Wolf City because he was the quarterback of the football team. He was Mr. Wolf City High School. He was most handsome, I think. But there wasn't anything, and everybody wanted to know who Joel was. from Wolf City, and the Wolf City people would come all the time. And they would come in this, I think his name was Augie, if I remember correctly, and he had this big orange car that looked like a big pumpkin. Why I remember that, I have absolutely no idea, but cruising up and down on Wesley, and like I said, in my old car that we called the Bomb, or later after my sister graduated, we called it the Funk, because we would turn up music, and Jamie Patterson, which is Jamie Patterson Cox and Melinda Phillips Moore. The first time either one of them got pulled over by the police is because I told them to peel out, and I can't remember which one was driving. I want to say it was Jamie, but she hit that gas pedal, and we peeled out and burnt rubber and left a big old streak down Wesley. And boy, those lights came on. I was like, oh, I'm not telling my parents. And we're going to your house. And Jamie was like, we're not going to my house. And I don't remember how it ended, but I know we all ended up okay. We always couldn't wait for the summers to get here because we had a cabin out at Club Lake, and going out and being at that lake, you really thought you were doing something. You would go out to the lake, and I'll never forget being out there. And today you can't even let kids near a swimming pool if they're little without life jackets. But I'll never forget this. Now, of course, it was hot. I did not want to get in the boat, and neither did Harry Gibson. Harry, of course, was going to be all about being in the car with air conditioning along with me. But his cousin, Matt Herlocker, and my older sister, Lachelle Butler Johnson, they wanted to canoe. They wanted to get out in the canoe. And, of course, Julia Gibson and my mother said it was okay for Lachelle and Matt to go from, I can't remember if it was from our cabin across the lake to Granny's cabin, or if it was going from Granny's cabin to our cabin. But I just know that Lachelle and I needed to get back to our cabin, and Harry and Matt needed to be at his. And so it must have been us going there. But so anyway, Harry and I got in the car and drove, and it was midnight. No life jackets, no lights, in a canoe, going paddling across Club Lake, and nobody thought anything of it. And I just remember loving, because you could go out there, you could do anything. Also remember another story about Club Lake. I think I was in the 7th grade, I was in the 7th grade, and Lachelle and Harry had to have been in the 10th grade. But we were out at Granny's house, and both our parents were there, and they were going to go out to dinner. And I'll never forget them telling Granny, do not let these kids drive your car. We're going to be gone. Don't let these kids drive your car. We know that it's okay that they can drive around the lake when we're here, but do not let them drive that car. And so they took off, our parents took off, and they hadn't been gone 15 minutes. And here goes Harry in there. He's, Granny, we want Taco Bell. And Granny's like, well, your parents told us not to let you go. He said, Granny, we'll bring you back something. Granny said, oh, don't. Just make sure you're home before they are. And so off we take, but don't have driver's license. I think Harry and Lachelle are 14. We are young, and here we are taking off, and we're going into town. We all come all the way into town. And now, I mean, from Club Lake into Greenville, now they're all houses and it's all built up. But back then, it was just pastures. I mean, where our Walmart is now, that was just pasture. There was nothing. I mean, there was nothing there. So Granny let us come all the way in, and we came in. We went to Taco Bell, and of course, the kids that we are, the teenagers that we are, we didn't just get our Taco Bell and come back. No, we had to go see a few friends along the way. And I was getting a little bit late, and Lachelle finally said we had to go back in. And so in we go. We get there, and I look up, and I'm sitting in the back seat, hanging my head kind of over the front, talking to them, and Christy Cheryl's right there beside me. And I look up, and I said, Harry, that's our parents. They're in front of us. Harry said, lay down, kids. And so we all laid down. Harry floored it, flew around them, and flew all the way. I mean, I bet he was going 80 miles an hour on it. Back then it was just a little 2-lane road. And I mean, he was flying. We got in there, we got that garage up, we got that car in, and we went in there and we got down in front of that TV, and we thought we had it. We thought we had it made. Here comes Big Gib and my parents in, and Miss Julia, and I mean they're in there, and they hadn't been in there maybe 15, 20 minutes, and we had made it. We made it. We look up there, and Granny is sucking on her Taco Bell cup, and they knew Granny didn't go into town, and I think they started putting 2 and 2 together. And they let us have it. They were like, Harry, you knew you shouldn't have asked. Well, we knew it wasn't Lachelle asking. Lori, you shouldn't have asked. And next thing we know, Gibson comes back in from outside, and he's gone outside and put his hand on the hood of the car, and it's still hot, so there was no way getting out of it. But we had more fun, and that's a hometown story.
This video has been brought to you by Juice 34. GEUS is your community-owned provider for electric, internet, cable TV, and true local programming.
When you pick Juice Internet, you get more. More quality service with free same-day installation. More options for packages, either standalone internet or bundled with cable TV. More hometown pride with employees and decision makers right here in Greenville. More reliability when you need it most. And more convenience with bills rolled in with your other utilities, along with easy drive-through service. Nobody does internet like Juice. So when you're ready for more, you know who to call. Juice Internet. Hometown service, world-class reliability.